Long before the first scriptures were written, before empires rose and fell, and before the borders of modern nations were drawn, the people of Africa sat under the stars and asked the oldest question known to humankind: where did we come from? This question wasn't answered with cold logic or clinical detachment. It was answered with rhythm, breath, firelight, and myth. The floodplains of the Nile to the savannas of West Africa, from the highlands of Ethiopia to the forests of the Congo, African communities crafted divine narratives that explained not only the origin of the world, but the meaning of existence itself. These weren't tales to be told once and forgotten. They were sacred blueprints passed through generations, carried by griots, sung by elders, and lived out through rituals, names, and moral codes. In Africa, creation myths serve a role far deeper than entertainment or metaphor. They are the very heart of a culture's values, a mirror of its spiritual understanding, and a map of its social logic. These myths explain why the rain comes, why the ancestors matter, why certain animals are revered, and why some taboos must never be broken. They offer a divine context for birth and death, joy and suffering, growth and decay. Myths are not just legends, they are vessels of law, ethics, cosmology, and memory. In many African societies, to understand the creation story is to understand your purpose, your role, and your place in the cosmic order. What makes African creation myths especially powerful is how they are rooted in the earth while reaching for the stars. They do not separate the spiritual from the natural or the divine from the human. Instead, they reveal a world where gods mold humans from clay, where rivers carry ancestral memory, and where stars are the children of sky gods. These myths make sense of complexity through symbolism, weaving divine intention into everyday life. And they are not static. Even today, they evolve with each storyteller, each ritual, each breath of cultural resilience. In this video, we embark on a journey across the continent, exploring the great origin stories of Africa. We will enter temples and forests, listen to the wind and the drum, and uncover how the oldest civilizations understood creation, not as a one-time event, but as an ongoing dialogue between humanity and the divine. These stories are not forgotten relics. They are living codes. They are the memory of a continent. They are, and always have been, the soul's compass in the African world. In the beginning, before sand and star, before name and nation, there was only none, the endless, formless sea of possibility. None was the primordial ocean, a watery abyss that held all potential but no shape. It was not chaos as we understand it, but a sacred stillness, a dark womb awaiting the breath of life. From this infinite sea rose a single mound, the first land, a symbolic echo of the Nile's annual flood, retreating to reveal fertile earth. Upon this mound emerged Adam, the first god, self-created, whole and complete within himself. He did not come with thunder or sword, but with intention, divine will stirring within the silent deep. Adam was the totality of all that would come. He was light wrapped in darkness, breath within stillness, a spark within the void. From his solitude, Adam brought forth creation not with weaponry, but with bodily expression. In one version of the myth, he speaks or breathes his children into existence. In another, he spits or releases bodily fluids that become gods themselves. From this act of divine projection emerged Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture. They were the first pair, complementary forces necessary for all life, breath and water. With air and moisture present, the stage was set for the material world to begin forming. Shu and Tefnut, like wind and dew, drifted into the cosmos, and for a time, Adam wept in loneliness, fearing he had lost them. When they returned, his tears of joy fell to the earth and became human beings, a divine moment that binds the origins of humanity to the emotions of a god. Shu and Tefnut in turn gave birth to Geb and Nut, earth and sky. But Geb and Nut were locked in an embrace so tight that life could not flourish between them. Atum, in his wisdom, ordered Shu to separate them. Shu lifted Nut high above Geb, stretching her into the arched sky, her body forming the heavens and her fingers and toes touching the horizons. Geb lay below, solid and fertile, giving rise to mountains, valleys, and the cradle of civilization. Between them, space, atmosphere, breath, was born the realm in which humans and gods would move. Nut would give birth to the sun every morning, and at night she would swallow it back into her body, repeating the cycle of life and death, light and darkness, eternally. From these divine unions arose more gods, forming what the Egyptians called the Ennead, a sacred group of 9 deities who represented the key principles of existence. Atum, Shu, Tefnut, Geb, Nut, Osiris, Isis, Set, and Nephthys together shaped not only the world but the moral and metaphysical structure that sustained it. Among them, Osiris would become ruler of the underworld, Isis the goddess of magic and motherhood, Set the embodiment of chaos and disruption, and Nephthys the guardian of thresholds and mourning. This divine family was not without conflict or contradiction. Like humanity, they struggled with jealousy, love, betrayal, and justice. Yet even their flaws served a purpose: to teach balance. Above all stood the principle of Maat, the goddess and concept of truth, justice, and cosmic order. She was not part of the Ennead, but governed them all. Every action in Egyptian life, from the ruling of kings to the weighing of the dead's heart in the afterlife, was judged against Ma'at. She was the feather that balanced the scales, the unseen logic behind creation, and the ideal state that Atum's lineage was meant to maintain. Without Ma'at, the waters of Nun would reclaim everything. The Egyptian creation story was not simply about origins, but about the sustaining rhythm of the universe. It taught that from the watery abyss of Nun came form and meaning, that life is born of divine intention and governed by balance. The gods did not just create the world, they encoded it with purpose, with ethics, with cycles of renewal. In the Nile's flooding and retreat, in the rising and setting of the sun, in the ceremonies and judgments of daily life, the Egyptians saw echoes of this primal story. Creation to them was not a one-time event. It was a daily act, a divine recurrence mirrored in breath, ritual, and law. And at its center stood Atum, the god who rose from water, created with a gesture, and gave birth to a cosmos built on truth. At the heart of the Yoruba cosmos is Olodumare, the ultimate source of all life, energy, and spiritual power. He is the unmoved mover, the divine spark from which all other forces arise. Olodumare is not anthropomorphized or made accessible through image or temple. Instead, he exists in sacred transcendence, beyond human comprehension, yet always present through the network of divine intermediaries known as the Orisha. These Orisha are not lesser gods, but sacred expressions of divine principles, forces of nature and archetypes of human experience, tasked with governing the affairs of the universe. And among them, none is more central to the Yoruba creation story than Obatala, the Orisha of purity, wisdom, and creation. In the beginning, the earth as we know it did not exist. The only realms were Orun, the spiritual plane of the divine, and below it, a watery, chaotic abyss that had yet to be shaped into a world suitable for life. Olodumare, in his wisdom, gathered the Orisha and instructed Obatala to descend into this void and create land. For this divine mission, Obatala was given a snail shell filled with sand, a white-feathered chicken, and a long chain to lower himself from the heavens. He also carried a palm nut, destined to sprout the first sacred trees. These simple items held the power of transformation, not by force, but by harmony with nature's elements. Obatala climbed down the chain from Orun and scattered the sand from the snail shell upon the water. Immediately, the sand began to spread. He then placed the chicken upon it, and as it scratched and scattered the grains in all directions, the land took form. Hills, valleys, and plains rose from the depths. This newly formed terrain became the foundation of the earth, and the exact spot where Obatala first touched land would become Elife, the sacred city known ever after as the navel of creation and the spiritual heart of Yoruba civilization. From this divine soil would rise culture, kingship, and destiny itself. Obatala planted the palm nut in this fresh earth, and from it grew the first palm tree, symbolic of life, nourishment, and shelter. As the land matured, he began shaping the first human beings from clay. With careful hands and divine breath, he molded their limbs, smoothed their faces, and prepared them for the spark of life. But in a moment of weakness, Obatala drank palm wine and became intoxicated. His hands faltered. Some of the clay figures were malformed, misshapen limbs, incomplete features, bodies unlike the ideal image he intended. When Olodumare discovered what had happened, he did not destroy the flawed humans. Instead, he chose to breathe life into all of them, perfect and imperfect alike. In doing so, he imbued the Yoruba creation story with a powerful message that all human beings, regardless of form, are sacred and worthy of life. Obatala, filled with remorse, swore never to drink again and became the eternal protector of those born with disabilities and deformities. Through this myth, the Yoruba teach a deep moral truth. Divinity embraces imperfection, and compassion is greater than judgment. Creation was not the end of Olodumare's involvement, it was only the beginning. Once life existed, the next divine gift was Ifa, the sacred system of divination that connects humans to their destiny. Ifa is both a spiritual practice and a cosmic language. It is consulted through a complex process involving the casting of sacred palm nuts or cowries and the interpretation of poetic verses, called Odu, by trained diviners known as Babalawo. Ifa does not simply predict the future, it reveals the path a person's spirit has chosen before birth. According to Yoruba belief, before descending to earth, every soul stands before Olodumare and selects a destiny. That destiny becomes the soul's mission, its inner compass, its reason for being. But once born, the human forgets this choice. Ifa helps them remember. This concept of destiny, or Ayenmo, is central to Yoruba spirituality. It affirms free will and accountability, yet emphasizes that each person was born with a divine purpose. Success in life is not about wealth or status, it is about living in alignment with one's chosen destiny. The Orisha assist in this alignment, guiding individuals through dreams, intuition, ritual, and divination. Each Orisha governs specific domains. Ogun rules over iron and war, Yemoja over motherhood and the ocean, Shango over thunder and leadership. By living in balance with one's Orisha and heeding the wisdom of Ifa, one walks a path of spiritual fulfillment and cosmic harmony. The world is a sacred weave of divine intention, human agency, and natural forces. The Yoruba creation story is not merely an origin myth, it is a spiritual philosophy encoded in ritual, language, and everyday life. From the first drop of sand to the final breath of destiny, it teaches that we are not alone in this world. We are shaped by divine hands, guided by ancestral wisdom, and bound to the earth by sacred law. And at the center of it all stands Olodumare, unseen, all-knowing, the silent source from which all rivers of life begin. In the spiritual cosmology of the Igbo people of southeastern Nigeria, the origin of creation is not attributed to a single act, but to a divine structure rooted in balance, morality, and the sacred continuity between the living and the dead. At the top of this cosmic hierarchy stands Chukwu, the supreme deity, whose name means the Great Spirit, or the source of all. Chukwu is not commonly depicted or personified in images, for he is believed to be distant, all-encompassing, and beyond human comprehension. He is both the essence and the initiator of existence, the one from whom all things proceed, yet who remains invisible and untouched by the material world. Like the air we breathe or the space between stars, Chukwu is everywhere and nowhere, the silent pulse behind creation. But Chukwu does not act alone in shaping the world. Working with him and often closer to human affairs is Allah, the goddess of the earth. She is both the physical land on which people live and the spiritual guardian of morality and justice. Allah is Chukwu's divine counterpart, the visible face of divine presence in the world. She governs fertility, agriculture, and the afterlife, but more importantly, she embodies moral authority. All actions, birth, death, marriage, harvest, are judged according to her sacred laws, known as Nso Allah or Nso Ani, the taboos that govern community life. Violations of these taboos are not merely personal failings, they are offenses against the earth itself, disturbing the spiritual harmony between humans and the divine. The land may suffer, crops may fail, and misfortune may follow when Allah is disrespected. The Igbo creation story teaches that Chukwu molded the first humans out of clay, shaping them with intention and then breathing life into them. The clay symbolizes the earth, the feminine foundation from which all life arises, while the divine breath represents the spiritual spark of Chukwu. In some versions, Allah is said to have played a role in nurturing these clay beings, linking the body and soul to both the sky and the soil. This dual origin mirrors the Igbo worldview, that every human being is both physical and spiritual, both divine and earthly. The moment of birth is not just biological, it is cosmic, as a soul descends from the ancestral realm into a new form, carrying within it echoes of a former life. This brings us to one of the most profound elements of Igbo cosmology: reincarnation. Life is seen as a continuous cycle of birth, death, and return. Ancestors do not vanish after death, they are reborn into the family line. Children are believed to carry the spirits of their forebears, not as carbon copies, but as spiritual continuations. A child's behavior, dreams, or physical features might be interpreted as signs of which ancestor has returned. Naming ceremonies often reflect this belief, with names like Nena, father's mother, or Nana, mother's father, marking the reappearance of a family soul. This belief in ancestral return is not superstition. It is a living expression of the Igbo idea that time is circular, not linear, and that the bonds between generations are unbreakable. The Igbo also believe that one's destiny, or chi, is chosen before birth in consultation with Chukwu. This personal spiritual double accompanies each individual through life, influencing success, struggles, and the choices one makes. While Chukwu is distant, one's chi is near, acting as a divine guide or inner compass. Harmony in life is achieved when a person lives in alignment with their chi and in respect for Allah's moral laws. Disharmony, whether through personal failure or social injustice, is not just misfortune, but a rupture in the sacred balance that governs the universe. The Igbo creation myth does more than explain where people come from. It provides a cosmic structure for how to live, with reverence for the earth, with honor toward the ancestors, and with mindfulness of the spiritual forces that guide each step. Chukwu remains the invisible source, Allah the tangible conscience, and the ancestors the ever-present witnesses. Together, they weave a sacred rhythm into every life. A rhythm that teaches that we are made of earth and breath, bound by law and spirit, and destined always to return to the soil, to the family, to the divine. In the high cliffs and dusty plains of Mali's Bandiagara escarpment, the Dogon people hold one of the most intricate and enigmatic cosmologies in all of Africa. Their creation story begins not with land or sky, but with a cosmic egg, a swirling, pulsating sphere of potential cradled in silence. Within this egg dwelt Amma, the supreme creator god, the force from which all life, motion, and matter emerged. Unlike many creation deities who forged the world from chaos or battle, Amma's creation was deeply ordered, mathematically precise, and profoundly symbolic. His egg contained the seeds of all things: time, matter, language, and the spiritual rhythms that would give rise to galaxies and gods alike. As the egg cracked open, Amma released twin pairs of spiritual beings into the cosmos, energies that would shape the structure of the universe. Among them were the Nommo twins, the most revered of Amma's creations. The Nommo were amphibious, androgynous beings, part human, part fish, and entirely divine. They represented order, speech, and the transformative power of water, the essence of life. When one of the Nommo twins violated cosmic harmony by acting selfishly, Amma intervened, restoring balance through ritual and sacrifice. This act of correction established a foundational Dogon belief that order must be restored whenever it is broken, and that divine speech, communication rooted in truth and sacred law, is the means to achieve that balance. The Nommo were not only mythological beings, they were cultural teachers. They descended to Earth bringing knowledge of farming, astrology, weaving, and governance. They taught the Dogon people how to interpret the world and understand its divine rhythms. In Dogon ritual and symbolism, the Nommo are invoked through water libations, chants, and sacred dances. They are not confined to myth. They live on in the structure of daily life, acting as conduits between humanity and the cosmic order. But perhaps the most astonishing aspect of Dogon mythology lies in its astronomical sophistication. The Dogon have long held that the Nommo came from a star system invisible to the naked eye, Sirius, specifically a companion star known today as Sirius B. Western astronomers only confirmed the existence of this dense, white dwarf star in the 20th century, but Dogon oral traditions had described it for generations, detailing its density, elliptical orbit, and gravitational pull. According to Dogon priests, Sirius B is the smallest and most potent thing in the universe, a concept that eerily aligns with modern physics. This revelation, passed down through myth and ritual, suggests that Dogon cosmology is not just spiritual metaphor, but a sophisticated framework that bridges mythology and science. Dogon ceremonies, such as the Sigui festival, which occurs every 60 years, This rite commemorates the moment when the Nommo first brought speech to humanity, and is intricately timed with celestial events involving Sirius. The festival is not only a celebration, but a ritual recalibration of human society with cosmic law. It serves as a reminder that time, speech, and order are all divine gifts, and that to live rightly is to live in harmony with the universe. In Dogon thought, creation is not static. It unfolds in spirals, like the Milky Way or the unfolding of a seed. Amma continues to move through the world, shaping it through cycles of growth, decay, and rebirth. The Nommo continue to speak if we are quiet enough to listen. And the stars above continue to tell a story, written not in ink, but in stardust and sacred rhythm. It is a cosmic blueprint, a metaphysical map that connects the earth beneath our feet to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. It teaches that order is sacred, that speech is divine, and that water, always water, is the carrier of life and spirit. In the Dogon worldview, we are not separate from the cosmos. We are written into it, each of us a verse in the great poem of Amma, cradled first in an egg and still unfolding across the stars. In the cosmology of the Zulu people of southern Africa, the beginning of all things is rooted not in fire or thunder, but in the gentle emergence from a reed, a humble swaying plant growing from the primordial swamp. From this reed, in the earliest moments of existence, came Unkulunkulu, the first being and the great ancestor of all humanity. Unlike distant creator gods who command creation from the heavens, Unkulunkulu was born of the earth, rising from its marshy cradle as part of nature itself. His birth was not a spectacle of force, but a quiet unfolding, a symbolic testament to the sacred connection between life and the land. Once emerged, Unkulunkulu began to shape the world with intention and care. He molded the first humans, forming them from the earth and breathing into them the essence of life. He then created the animals, the mountains, the rivers, the sun, and the rain. Each element was crafted with purpose, designed to live in balance with the others. The mountains were raised as pillars connecting the earth to the sky, while the rain was sent as a divine blessing, nurturing the land and the people. In the Zulu worldview, these natural elements are not passive features of the environment. They are sacred agents, living symbols of the divine plan first imagined by Unkulunkulu. But Unkulunkulu's creative power did not end with the material world. He established the ancestral realm, a spiritual domain just beyond the veil of everyday life. In Zulu culture, the ancestors, or Amadlozi, play a central role in guiding, protecting, and judging the living. They are the spiritual bridge between Unkulunkulu and the present. Through dreams, rituals, and offerings, the Zulu people remain in constant dialogue with those who came before them. Ancestors are not gone. They walk beside their descendants, whispering wisdom and watching over the community. Their will must be respected, their names invoked, and their memory honored in every major life event. Mountains in particular are seen as spiritual gateways, towering places where one might hear the voice of the ancestors or sense the presence of Unkulunkulu. Rain is likewise sacred, arriving not just as weather, but as divine speech, a renewal of life and a reminder of the sacred bond between the heavens and the earth. In this myth, we see not only a tale of origin, but a blueprint for living, a call to remember where we came from, to walk in rhythm with nature, and to revere the unseen forces that shape every storm and sunrise. In the vast savannas of South Sudan, the Dinka people trace their origins to Nialik, the supreme sky god and creator of all things. Nialik is a distant yet omnipresent force, residing high above the earth in the boundless sky. He is not involved in the minutiae of daily life, but is revered as the ultimate source of creation, wisdom, and life's natural order. His domain is not the soil or the river, but the sky itself, immense, eternal, and unreachable. The Dinka describe Nialik with a reverent distance, acknowledging his supreme authority while accepting his separation from the human world. In the earliest days of existence, heaven and earth were much closer than they are now. Humans and divine beings shared a closeness that allowed for constant communion. During this sacred period, Nialik created the first humans, forming them with care and placing them on earth to live in harmony with the world he had fashioned. However, this closeness was not without rules. One of the divine commandments was that humans should never pound the earth with a pestle, an act that would disturb the divine balance and offend the spiritual laws laid out by Neolithic. Yet, over time, the people grew complacent or perhaps curious. A woman, in need of preparing food, ignored the sacred command and pounded the earth. This single act of disobedience echoed beyond the physical and into the cosmic. Neolithic, angered by the violation, withdrew from the earth, lifting the sky to its current height and severing the direct connection between the heavens and humanity. What had once been a shared space became two distinct realms, one of mortals and one of the divine. This cosmic punishment marked a profound turning point in Dinka mythology, the loss of direct access to the divine and the beginning of a spiritual distance that humanity would always seek to bridge. Though Neolithic remained the supreme creator, his withdrawal reshaped Dinka religious life. No longer could humans simply reach up to speak with the sky god. They now required rituals, dreams, and the guidance of spiritual intermediaries to communicate with the heavens. The sky, once within reach, became eternal but inaccessible, a vast symbol of lost intimacy with the divine. Even so, the Dinka continued to live with deep spiritual awareness, honoring Neolithic through oral tradition, animal sacrifice, and sacred ceremonies. His presence lingers in the blue expanse above, a reminder that divine closeness must be guarded with humility, and that the moral order of the universe, once broken, still echoes through every act of reverence or defiance. Across the vast tapestry of African creation myths, certain themes echo again and again, transcending geography, language, and ethnicity. From the Dogon cliffs of Mali to the rainforests of the Congo, from the Nile to the Niger, African cosmologies are woven with a set of deeply resonant symbols: clay, water, serpent, drum, and speech, each carrying layers of spiritual and philosophical meaning. Clay, for instance, emerges universally as the divine medium of human formation. Whether molded by Chukwu in Igbo tradition, Obatala in Yoruba mythology, or Atum in Egyptian lore, clay is not just soil. It is life in waiting, animated by the sacred breath of the divine. It reminds us that our physical bodies are born of the earth, bound to it, and destined to return to it. Water is the carrier of life and spirit. The Nommo bring order and speech through water. Allah governs rivers and fertility. Rain is a divine message in Zulu belief. Water purifies, nourishes, and links the physical world with the unseen. Similarly, the sky is more than a backdrop. It is a dwelling place of gods, the original realm of Neolithic and Konvum, a ceiling of the world where ancestral spirits and stars reside. Serpents too appear frequently, not as villains but as sacred forces of renewal, transformation, and hidden wisdom. In Konvum's myth, the rainbow, the bow of creation, is formed of serpents. In Egyptian and Dogon thought, serpents often symbolize cosmic cycles and primal energy. Then there is the drum, the beating heart of Africa's spiritual life. The drum is not only music, it is communication. It summons spirits, announces births and deaths, and carries stories across time. It is the sound of memory being kept alive. And through speech, myths are passed down, rituals are sanctified, and destinies are revealed. Speech is not casual, it is sacred, guided by the divine wisdom of beings like the Nommo or the Ifa oracle. Words create worlds. They restore order. They call ancestors home. These elements converge to uphold African cosmologies, where creation is tied to ethics and harmony. These are not just stories of how the world began, they are manuals for how to live. They teach balance with nature, respect for elders, humility before the divine, and responsibility within the community. Life is not linear, but cyclical, bound by reincarnation and ancestral memory. The dead return as children, stars, whispers, and dreams. To forget the past is to forget oneself. In every culture explored, the soul's journey is eternal, anchored in land, guided by spirit, and remembered through sacred rhythm. African creation stories are not lost. They are not relics buried under the ruins of time or whispers silenced by colonial winds. They are still alive, in the songs of griots, in the dreams of elders, in the soil beneath ancestral trees. These stories are not simply about beginnings. They are blueprints of how to live, how to remember, how to return. Each myth we've explored, from Egypt to Yoruba, Igbo to Dogon, Zulu to Dinka, is a sacred river flowing from the same mountain. The desire to understand our place in the universe, to walk in balance with the earth, and to hear the voice of the divine in wind, water, and flame. So wherever you are in the world, may you find your source. May your roots rise strong. May you know that you are not disconnected. You are remembered by the soil, by the stars, and by the stories that shaped your ancestors. I pray for you, not just for protection, but for awakening. May the Most High guide you into truth, into identity, and into peace that only divine memory brings. If this journey stirred your soul, don't let it end here. Breathe this story into someone else's world. Like this video, drop your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more Africa Somos stories, and share this not just to be seen, but so the voices of our ancestors may be heard again. Let's carry them together. Let's become the echo that refuses to die.